Growing up, I did a lot of comparison. So, like comparing myself to my peers or, my business school friends and like I think when you fall down that trap, go down that trap, it's not good. So I would say, everyone has their own life and it's going to be different. And also I think life it's a marathon. And so, I just remember had finished business school and I had colleagues that were, already like very early on, like CEO of like, this business or whatnot. And it's so easy to compare yourself to other people who seem like more ahead.
Mm-hmm.
But all I can say is based on my experience, life is very long and it's a marathon and really you don't know what's going to happen in 2, 3, 5 years.
Today on the episode, we have Rhyu, founder and CEO of Hero Cosmetics. And she is with us today from Los Angeles. How are things down there, Ju?
Hot. It's 90 today, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's always beautiful down in LA. Okay, so let's go back to the very beginning. You were born in Korea and immigrated when you were young to Seattle. Do you remember much about Korea as a child? How old were you?
Oh gosh, I moved when I was 3. I actually don't remember much at all.
Oh, 3. Yeah, you don't remember. Okay. And then you moved to Seattle. What was that like growing up in Seattle?
Seattle, I mean, it's changed a lot because, I grew up there in the 80s. I mean, that was before like the huge tech boom. I think now, I think if you go, like I just saw my parents in New York and they were saying the food in New York is actually cheaper than in Seattle. And so that's how much I think the Seattle area has gentrified, probably a lot, mostly due to a lot of the technology companies, and companies like Starbucks and stuff. But I mean, yeah, in the 80s, it wasn't like a hot destination. Although growing up, there were a lot of Koreans. Obviously LA is known to have a really big Korean American population. And Seattle, I don't know like in the ranking where it falls, but there were like when I was growing up, there were actually quite a few. There were like the strip malls with like the Korean restaurants and the Korean grocery stores and the Korean communities. So, my parents who were first generation, they were really embedded into that community. My high school too, growing up, there were a fair number of Asians and specifically Korean Americans. And so, kind of grew up as that, in Korea, sometimes we call it like 1.5, the 1.5 culture, because, I'm not first generation.
Yeah.
I'm also not, because I wasn't born in the US. I wasn't second generation, but kind of straddling.
Yeah, at 3, it's,
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you didn't ever feel like or experience any racism in Seattle because Seattle has a decent Asian population. So
I mean, not specifically, but, there are things when I think back now, you would, they'd now be called microaggressions. But like back then, you're just kind of, haha, that's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think there were enough Asians and specifically Koreans back then where I don't recall any specific like racial gestures to me specifically, or even witnessing anything in specific. Like nothing comes to mind.
Yeah.
So I think it was a pretty, fairly diverse community in that way that was accepting of people.
So was your high school very much like, is it 10 Things I Hate About You? Was that one the Seattle high school scene kind of
Oh,
thing?
yeah, that was. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah. Was it very like, it was, what percentage was your high school, like Asian?
I mean, I don't think it was significant.
Yeah.
I mean, we were definitely like in the minority still.
Yeah.
I would say in my class, oh God, I don't even know what our class, I don't know, in a class of maybe like 100, I'd say a good 10 to 15%.
Okay. Oh, that's actually not bad.
That's not bad.
The fact you have double digits is pretty good. And your dad was an entrepreneur. And did your mom work?
My mom did not work.
Okay, so she was stay-at-home mom. And then your dad was, I don't know what a log broker is, but from Seattle, so I'm imagining selling wood to.
Yes. Yeah. He had more of a traditional corporate career in Korea, and it was one of those like industrial sort of companies. And he like moved around a lot. Like he was selling cement in Saudi Arabia.
Oh wow!
for example, and then he gone into the log broker side where Korea needs a lot of lumber and a lot of wood because, I mean, it's a country that doesn't have a lot of its own natural resources, so
Mhm.
they have to get them from the outside.
Mm.
And they need it for things like construction and, like furniture and whatnot. So my dad was an expat for his Korean company and moved to Seattle with this division where he was focused on exporting lumber or importing lumber, I guess, to Korea.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so the way that it works in the logging industry is there are two sides, right? There's like a buyer and a seller, and then
Mhm.
each side has their own broker.
Mhm.
And so my dad was a buyer's broker. So a customer in Korea would go to him and say, like, I need this many, I don't know, containers of logs for whatever project that they were working on.
Mhm.
It has to be this type of wood, like this type of quality. And so he would source it through his contacts, which is one of the reasons why we moved to Seattle is because, Pacific Northwest, there's
Yeah.
a big logging
Yep.
industry. And then it's also close to places like Canada where
Yep. Vancouver,
they
yeah.
have yeah, they have a lot more supply.
Mhm.
And so he would interface with the seller's broker and he would source, negotiate the pricing, arrange the shipment, the containers and stuff. And so he did that through his Korean corporate company.
Yeah.
That's what brought us to Seattle.
Yeah.
And then he just realized, like I can keep doing this, just keep climbing the ladder, or I can just go out on my own. So
Mhm.
I don't know exactly how old he was, but probably like late 30s maybe.
Oh.
He left and he went out on his own, and that was his main, profession, and then he took, some of the money that he made and started doing real estate,
Oh.
specifically real estate in LA. So, he owns, like, a few multi-family residential buildings in K-Town
Yeah.
and
Oh, wow. Oh, so that's pretty like a lot of foresight back then to
yeah.
get now, especially now. And now
Mhm.
you're in LA. And so I remember hearing that you wanted to be a doctor growing up, but your parents, this is kind of, I don't know if it was reverse psychology, but they did not want you to be a doctor because
Yeah.
they thought it's too hard. That's usually the opposite of what people hear, but what
I
was
know.
that like?
Well, I think it's also there, my dad's a businessman. And so in his mind I think, it's probably a lot from his own experience. Like it's probably biased thinking that business was the way. Like I think
Yeah.
he would have preferred that I was a business person,
Yeah.
partly because he is.
Yeah.
And so I did grow up wanting to be a doctor, but they dissuaded me just like the years of training and like the years of residency and actually like I'm glad I'm not a doctor.
Hmm.
I look at friends and it is
Yeah.
I mean, it's years and years of training,
Yeah.
years of having really difficult schedules.
Yeah. No freedom really.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
And so I think, they recognize it's a very hard path to
Hmm.
get there.
Hmm.
And then also, if kind of financial stability or financial freedom is what, they were thinking about for me,
Yeah.
then in my
Probably
dad's
not.
mind,
Yeah.
the business track
Business was the
was
way
the
to go.
better way. And so, yeah, maybe I was like one of the few Asian kids where, I actually wanted to be a doctor and then my parents told me not to.
Yeah,
Because
exactly. I was like, "Oh."
probably is it probably is the opposite. But again, I think a lot of it's, like, based on my dad's experience. Because I remember him, like, encouraging me to start my own business or, I'm into baking, like, "Oh, why don't you start your own, cafe or, like, boulangerie or something like
Mhm.
that." But again, like, that's the experience that he knows that he's had success with is
Yeah.
his experience as an entrepreneur and seeing like,
Yeah.
that's the way that you can really, find success.
It's interesting because it's the opposite. Most Asian immigrants come here thinking they want their kids to have security. It's not necessarily
Mhm.
success, it's just stability and security.
Yeah.
Success in their mind is having that. And I feel like if your dad was a businessman and he went off on his own, he saw the freedom of independence that he had to
Mhm.
choose his own path. And I
Yeah.
think when he sees what other people go through, it's like, well, it's like a false sense of like success. It's like security, which is fine, but then they never have the freedom to decide like to do what they want to do. The path is kind of, especially in medicine, is like paved out for you. Like, there's only one path and you're on rails that whole path. So when you applied to Brown, did you apply it for pre-me or
No,
pre-med?
It was in my college application. I did not apply to the PLME program though,
Hmm.
but it was
But you were pre-med when you applied.
I was not pre-med.
Oh, so they
Actually,
already
I have
talked it out
to
of you.
switch. It was part of my application, but I think when I got there, I decided, like, that's
Not to.
not
Oh, okay. So they talked it out of you. So that's good. But then you major in history and IR, and your dad wanted you to focus in econ. So you weren't fully bought into the business thing yet.
No, I mean,
You didn't need to have major in business anyway. So econ to be
yeah, I
part of business.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I just remember him being like, "Oh, what are these useless degrees, like history, like, you should be studying economics," because again, like,
Yeah. Business.
he's a
Yeah.
big business person, but I don't know, I'm had a s I've had a very kind of windy path.
Hmm.
It's not like I knew from day one, like, this is what I'm gonna be and this is
Yeah.
what I'm gonna do. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I was still very much in my exploratory phase, and, Grant, I think, is one of the great places where you
Hmm.
can do that.
Hmm.
Like, you're not forced to, pick a career path, like,
Yeah.
early on. I know in the
Yeah.
French system, you do have to do that, like, when you're very young.
Yeah.
So, it was just sort of like, what are the things that interest
Explore.
me? Yeah, like, what do I wanna learn? And so, eventually, I landed on, "Okay, I think I wanna do marketing," 'cause
Mm-hmm.
I have a creative side,
Hmm.
but then I also have an analytical side, and
Hmm.
so I wasn't so creative. Like, I took classes at RISD, which is an art school right next to, Brown, but I wasn't
Hmm.
so creative or even, like, talented enough to go full down the path of being some kind of creative person, and then I still had, interest in more like the analytical
Hmm.
side, and so I remember, yeah, one day I was like, "Oh, maybe marketing would be
Sure. A nice
the
balance.
career that kind of
Yeah.
combines the 2."
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure your dad would not have been pleased if you went straight creative. You went all in creative. And so you graduate around 2000, 2001. Is that right?
Yeah, 2001, I
Dot
graduated with
com
all my
bust.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was at Yahoo and everything was like imploding in dot com bust. So not
yeah,
great.
and then it goes from bad to worse after
Yeah.
9/11, and yeah,
Yeah.
it was rough times.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, I imagine right now all the kids graduating with all the AI jobs and everything else like being taken, like jobs being
I
taken by
know,
AI. It's hard to graduate right now too. But
heard
but I remember hearing you got an internship in Kenya. That was this after graduation or during school?
that was, during school. It was a summer program,
Hmm.
so we were doing, like, community work in Nairobi. I can't remember how many weeks. It was, like, 2 or 3 weeks or something like that, and it was sort of like, I was graduating without a job. And, back then, like, I had a kind of, a heart towards, I wouldn't say I mean, I would say more like NGO work
Hmm.
or doing good, like doing something positive and good for society.
Hmm.
So, yeah, there was this opportunity. I was graduating, I didn't have a job when I graduated,
Yeah.
and, so I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna go." So went there, and then, one of the jobs that I had, not long after graduating was at a NGO, uh,
Epiphany. Is that right?
just called the Epiphany School,
Yep.
and so again, kind of, having that motivation of, like, wanting to make some kind of positive impact in society,
Hmm.
um and at the time, I thought, like, "Okay, well, this could be the path, like, the way that I do it."
Yeah.
But I realized, like, there are many ways that you can do it, actually.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be so direct as, like, "Oh, I have to work for a nonprofit," or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
And did you grow up in a religious household, or was there any of like where your parents? Oh, so you didn't. And
No,
so,
but yeah, I mean, so the way that I
because I
grew
would
up.
have thought Korean church, you would have gone, and
Yes.
then you went to Kenya for a missions thing, and then you went to go do,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I grew up around it because a lot of my
yeah,
friends.
community stuff, yeah.
Yeah, every Sunday, they're going to, the church, and there's, like, youth group, and
Hmm.
so my parents are not religious, and I didn't grow up that way, although I was influenced because, so many of my friends
Hmm.
would go to, these
Mission
Korean
trips and stuff.
churches
Yeah,
and
yeah,
come to Sunday service or come to youth group or whatnot, or come to these
yeah,
retreats, and so I would participate.
yeah, yeah.
I would participate, yeah.
But so I could understand parents being understanding if you were going to Kenya and if they're a religious household, but you were not, and so you're going to your dad sent you to your parents pay for a very expensive school, and you
Yeah.
go to Kenya, and then you start going down to the nonprofit route. I mean, what was that conversation like?
I think I have a younger brother, so I'm gonna tell the story is because I have a younger brother who he went to Tufts, and then he studied engineering, and then he went to, like, a consulting company,
Mhm,
making good money, focus on, like, something related to, like, engineering,
mhm.
and then he went to, like, a digital agency, and then he went to Meta. Well, back then it was Facebook, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
pre-IPO.
yeah,
And I just remember, like, me feeling kind of like I'm not living up to expectations because 'cause I'm
yeah,
the first child,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I was always, like, the good student, like, the
Right,
better student compared to my
right.
brother. And he had this career path that was very kinda, like, classic in a
Mhm.
classic sense. It was a good career path, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
And then here's me, I'm like, studying I went to Brown and then doing all this, like, random stuff that's, like, a lot less traditional, and yeah, and I just remember, like, there were a lot of feelings just, personally that compared to my brother was basically having the path that I should have had.
right.
This is a lot more traditional, a lot more sort of like step 1, step 2, and then, and yeah, and he's done very well for himself.
Yeah,
And I don't think it was, like, always spoken, but I think I felt it myself that, like, I think they probably had expectations of me, that I wasn't living up to during that period,
mhm.
because my path was so, like,
Yeah.
windy. And, yeah, it's almost like the discussion didn't even need to happen because it
It's like
was, like,
unsaid.
sentiment.
Yeah, yeah. But then you went to business school, so you at least got that graduate degree and did I mean, that seems like you're back on path, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, yeah. That was kind of that. It's sort of
Yeah,
like because I was a career switcher, so I went to
yeah.
business school partly because, I was working at this,
Epiphany
nonprofit
school, yeah.
school, and I was like, "You know what? I wanna do business."
Mhm.
But I didn't have a traditional business background, so I was a career switcher, and I went to business school to kind of reset, and then yeah, and then I did my internship, in brand management at Kraft Foods,
Yep.
and that sort of set me, on a different trajectory. So that was, like, my resetting period,
Yeah.
and then, did a few corporate stints, and did that before founding Hero.
And so when you were at Kraft or Mondelez, you were in the snacks division for planners. Were you doing marketing there, or what were you doing there?
Yeah, yeah. Market brand management, which is,
Mhm.
back then it was sort of that was a track, like, if you wanted to be a future
Yeah,
CMO, CEO, that was, like, the path that
the
you would
path.
go on.
Yeah, yeah,
And, yeah, it was a marketing role. I learned a lot. I learned a lot that I still base a lot of feedback or comments or, a lot of my hero journey is based off of things that I learned during that trajectory. So,
yeah.
valuable
What do you
experience.
what do you feel about like a lot of founders like they don't think they need any corporate experience, but then I find that that's maybe some true for some in some sense, but I mean I feel like some experience like that, marketing for a huge brand and learning how it's done properly, it's invaluable. I mean, especially if you're building a CPG
Yeah.
product to sell in big box retailers, that's huge.
But, it's funny because now sometimes I talk to investors in the CPG space, and if it kinda depends on how long you've been at big
Yeah, if
CPG.
you're too long, you're like stuck in your ways
Yes.
probably. Yeah,
They're like,
that's
"Oh,
true.
they're gonna use
They're
it,
gonna still buy
the
at
big
billboards
CPG
and stuff and
for
commercials.
we're gonna need all this money, they need a big team," and, like, they don't like that because they don't think you can be scrappy enough,
It's not
so
efficient. Yeah.
yeah, I guess if you have, like, enough experience, but, maybe
Not too much.
if it hasn't been, like, ingrained in you, like, that
Right.
this has to be the way.
Yeah.
'Cause yeah, it requires a different way of operating that
Yeah.
may be uncomfortable
Yeah.
to folks like that.
And then you end up at Samsung in Korea. And tell me how you end up from Kraft to Samsung in Korea.
Yeah. So after Kraft, I joined American Express. I was working on a digital product at American Express, and then Samsung, it was a credit card division. So that was
Mhm.
sort of the link
Mm.
between Samsung and American Express.
Mhm.
They had this new initiative where they wanted to recruit a lot more foreigners into the
Mhm.
Samsung family,
Mhm.
because I think they want a lot more diversification. They realized they needed to be a global player and they needed
Mhm.
more, they needed like different people and different ways of doing things.
Perspectives.
So
Yeah.
the easy way for them was to hire Korean Americans because culturally you bridge a
Bridge. Yeah.
more yeah, and then sometimes, like, they, you know, depending on the person, like, they'll speak Korean, and usually the language that you were working in was Korean. So, there's a whole program to recruit Korean Americans from American Express specifically, and, other places, and then
Oh, so they were like reaching out to people at American Korean American. They were looking at like there was no LinkedIn or anything. I mean, how'd they find all you guys?
I think LinkedIn
Oh, they
or
did have like okay. I
yeah,
was like
I don't
looking at
yeah.
last names at American Express. Wow.
And then I have a friend who, like, we were sort of career twins because I met her at Kraft, and then she went to Samsung. And so I remember I was asking her, she had already gone and through the whole program. And so, anyways, they found me through
Hmm.
this kind of like expat recruiting program, and I just kind of went. Like, I didn't, it was really not a serious idea for me. I just,
Hmm.
why not just have a conversation? But then, continued and became a lot more serious. And my dad really wanted me to go because, like, well, first of
Yeah.
all, like in Korea, Samsung is like the gold
Yeah.
standard in terms of brand name.
Yeah. It's Harvard. Yeah.
And then I think he loved the idea that, I might
You go back
spend
to Korea.
2 years, yeah, 2 years in Korea because, he was going back and forth a lot. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a big part of his life.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up going to Korea, worked there for 2 years, yeah, I mean, it was a hard experience,
Yeah.
because culturally, like, I am way more American than I am Korean,
Yeah.
and language was still hard, like, I grew up still speaking to my parents in Korean, and
Home. Yeah.
yeah, but it's, like,
That's very
basic.
different than work. Yeah.
It is, like, just
Yeah.
business vocabulary and,
Yeah.
all sorts of things. It's like it was very hard. Yeah.
I remember when I was in Taiwan and I'd have these conversations and they say things to me. I'd say yes a lot, nodding like I probably did
Yeah,
not understand half the stuff they were saying, but I was
yeah,
like uh-huh. Um, but what was so I had a friend who my business school classmate at Stanford. She was like I feel like the one of the first or the only Korean like one only women in the investment banking division at Morgan Stanley in Korea. And I mean I can't even imagine what that must have been like. Like
yeah.
what is it like? Because Korea is pretty patriarchal. Like in not
Very.
so. I mean Japan's maybe worse, but like what was it like being a woman in Samsung? Obviously there were other women there, but did you
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
like it was like a really hard place to work also because of that, or
Uh,
because they knew you're American, they weren't going to be as
yeah, I think I probably got a lot of passes because I was more Korean American.
yeah.
I saw yeah, there's a lot of, like, I'll give you an example. The resumes, when you submit a resume, so this was back, I don't know, 2012 or something. I don't know if it's still the case. I'm assuming it's still the case.
Hmm.
You have to, it's like a complete profile. So you have your photo, you have like biographical information, which includes like your age, your height, your weight, your religion. Are you married? Are you divorced? Do you have
Oh,
kids? And then
those
I was like
HR violations.
family biographical.
That's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, your dad, his age, where did he go to school, what
Oh
does
my
he
gosh.
do?
Is
Like,
it public for everyone or
I
just
don't think it's
application?
public, but it's the resume that you submit for a
Oh,
job.
okay. So they're going through everything. Wow.
And so, I mean, some of that stuff is illegal in the
No, no,
US,
I know. It's just HR violations left and right to ask.
and I was just shocked
Yeah.
that, and so when that to be able to work at Samsung, like, or any company,
It's
like,
like working
that's
for the
the
CIA.
biographical data that
Yeah.
you need to present.
Yeah.
You realize, like, people like, that means people are judging you
They're
based on
filtering. Yeah. Yeah.
things like, "Are you divorced or
Yeah.
are you not divorced?"
Who's
And
your
I remember,
dad?
like,
Things like,
my
yeah.
friend telling me that she was in an interview where, yeah, they were debating a candidate who she thought was, like, a lot more qualified, but, like, the company was like, "Oh, but she's divorced," you know?
Oh
And
gosh.
so I just say this because I think it shows why it's such a high pressure societies because,
Hmm.
like, I think they have a very specific idea of, like, what a successful person
Hmm.
should look like
Yeah.
or be
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
And that kind of stems from there, right?
Hmm.
So I think that's why there's a lot of pressure about education
Hmm.
and social status and who you
Yeah.
marry
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I was also still very surprised that, like, I remember, there was like a New Year's, it was New Year's, and as like a team building exercise, everyone got into a circle and everyone, a lot of people shared their New Year's wishes. It was so interesting because the women there's, like, all these women who was like, "Oh, this year, my New Year's resolution is to get married.
You're married.
New Year's resolution is to get married." And so, that it was still a big, hang up
Mm,
for a lot of people is, like, that's, like, the goal of kind of their life for that year.
sure.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think Korean society has evolved a lot. I mean, it's a very modern society and
Yeah.
culture, but in some ways, in terms of values, um, they're still kind of anchored in a lot of these traditional ways.
Yeah. Well, so besides the fact that you discovered like, the mighty like the patch there, what I always regret never having lived like for a longer period of time, extensive period of time in Asia as an
Mhm.
Asian, because we lived there during COVID in Taiwan, and I felt like I was like superhuman, or I just didn't feel like there was a boogeyman over my shoulder, like, you know, watching over me, and I felt like very empowered. Did you
Mhm.
like how did you feel in your experience living in Korea? And is there, you know, beyond the fact that it helps you start this successful company, like would you recommend that others kind of do a stint in Asia, or, like what was that like for you personally in terms of kind of connecting to your culture?
I have lived in Korea. I also lived almost 6 years in Paris.
Hmm.
2 very different experiences, but, I mean, I think if anyone has the opportunity to live abroad, it is very beneficial just seeing the world from a different lens. You get, obviously, there's a lot of inspiration that comes from different cultures, and
Hmm.
I mean, that's kind of one of the things that we did with Hero and the Mighty Patch is that acne patch was well adopted and well utilized in Korea, but it just never really made its way to the US.
Crossover, yeah.
We needed someone who could sort of like bridge
Hmm.
the 2, and, I think travel is still a great way to get a lot of inspiration and a lot of ideas. You see things that, aren't part of your normal daily life, and, you start asking a lot of questions,
Hmm.
asking why, like, why is this not available in the
Hmm.
US or vice versa? And I think people who can really bridge that, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if anyone really has an opportunity and it makes sense, I think it's always a great to, yeah, have.
And so while you're in Korea, you start using these patches, you see people wearing these patches, these transparent patches, and that sparks an idea. How did that lead to founding Hero? I mean, imagine your dad's influence of being an entrepreneur and going out on his own helped too, but you were still in this program. I don't know if was it a set 2-year program that you knew
Yeah.
you were coming back? Okay.
Yeah, it was contracted for 2 years, and, I mean, it was an amazing product. I don't know if maybe you haven't used it yet. You look like you
Yeah.
have, great skin.
I know, no, I used to have a lot of acne, but it was too late by then to fix this stuff.
But
But I walked into an Olive Young in Korea, and I'm like, "Oh, there's too many things here. I don't even know what I would get." You know? Unless someone recommended on a blog, I wouldn't know what to get anyway.
it's, I mean, it really was a life-changing discovery for myself and probably a lot of acne sufferers out there. It works so well.
Mhm,
And I was like, "Why is this not available in the
mhm,
US?" I started seeing, like, the early signs of people wanting it, like, people on Reddit saying, like, "Oh, there are these
mhm,
acne patches available in Asia."
mhm.
I'm asking my sister or my friend who's traveling to Asia to get them for me. And so I knew that there was, like, early signs of demand, and, there were some Korean brands, specifically COSRX, who they were selling in the US. And it took, I have 2 co-founders, so it took, me joining forces with my 2 co-founders to really get things going.
Yeah.
And I mean, kind of right time, right place. I think we launched at the right moment. And that's when I think K-beauty was really,
Mm,
becoming a lot more popular, and they were, growing. There's growing demand on Amazon. We launched on Amazon, and yeah, and so we really launched it as a kind of test.
yeah.
We didn't do a big launch. It was just, we ordered the minimum order possible, which was 10,000 units, and then we put it on Amazon to test it out to see if people would buy it. They did, and then we ended up creating this whole category.
So I always tell people, even if you have a job, you can start a side hustle, and they're like, "Oh, that's I don't know, that seems like a lot." I'm like, literally, you you bought some and you stuck on Amazon to see if there's any demand, and you're
Yeah,
like, okay, there is. This can
yeah,
go further. I feel like
yeah,
it all starts with just testing the waters. And I mean, how
yes.
much was that 10,000 order?
Probably like $15,000 maybe.
Okay, so you was it all your money or did all three of you?
All 3 of us, yeah, we
Okay,
put money in and, we put starting out with $50,000 and we were making money, like, very early on because we were bootstrapping. We didn't spend a lot on marketing,
yeah,
and we really did things, like, very differently than because this was back in 2017, so
yeah,
this was, like, the, D2C era,
yes. When
you
everything
know?
was yeah,
And so we did things really differently, which ended up paying off. We launched really small. We spent like very little on marketing.
hmm
I mean, we had a nice brand, but it wasn't like, super flashy. We didn't
yeah,
spend like, a quarter of $1 million with an agency or anything like that on it. And and I think we had a good idea, but I think we also had like excellent execution. You
When you
know,
say excellent execution, what do you mean?
I think it was, yeah, like starting small,
hmm
being really tight with our distribution because at sale because we exited to Church Dwight in 2022. We
hmm
really were on Amazon, Target, and a little bit of Ulta.
Oh,
Um,
really? Oh, just that's it?
3 channels mostly. We had an amazing team.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because, like, my 2 co-founders are also Korean American, and we'd always, between us or amongst us, we'd always, kinda talking about, like, the Asian standard, and I think we held everyone to, a high standard in
hmm
terms of execution and the team and culture, and, yeah, I mean, I'm really proud of the team that we built, and we are still the number 1 acne patch and
Yeah.
also the number 1 acne brand in the category.
Wow. I mean, you said Amazon. So it was Amazon the bulk of your sales in the beginning?
Oh, yeah, in the beginning, it was, like,
All
90%, and then once we started launching at Target,
Target
that,
still?
percentage started going down because Target became so much bigger.
Did it overtake the Amazon category? Oh, wow, okay. Because I mean, I feel like Amazon takes such a big chunk. Some people are
Yeah,
like, "How do you even build a business on that? Because it takes so much money."
but, if you're selling at a retailer, it's actually not dissimilar
Oh, because
to
they take a huge chunk
margins.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the retailer will easily take, like, 50%,
Yeah.
and then there's, like,
Got
all
it.
this other stuff. So if you
Yeah.
compare them, actually, sometimes Amazon can be a little bit more profitable than a retailer.
Oh, wow. And so I thought Dwight and Andy were at agencies. You said you didn't use an agency.
They
What kind
had
of
their
agency were
own
they running?
agency. They had their own agency,
Marketing? It was like an advertising brand
yeah, it was like
agency?
a digital agency.
Yeah.
They focus a lot on, like, web design or building apps or building websites.
Okay.
Dwight's a technical engineer, and then Andy is a designer. We did leverage their agency early on because we just needed more
Collateral and stuff. Yeah.
hands. Yeah,
Yeah.
assets and, like, need help with the website and all that stuff, and so we paid like, this business ended up paying their agency, like, favorable fees.
Did you spend on like early on like any marketing like influencers or because I feel like a lot of it relies on that. Nothing. It was just
Gifted, a lot of gifting. So we didn't do paid influencers until, like, year 3 or 4. We
okay.
really try to hold off on paying
Yeah.
for a really long time.
Yeah.
Um, so
But
we
gifting.
just focus on gifting.
So what does that result in? People actually talked about it a lot then.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I mean, you count on, like, the free kind of mention on Instagram, but also, like, the social game has changed a lot
Yeah.
in however many, it's been, like, 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
So, what worked back then, would it work now? Like, I don't really know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we didn't spend anything, just gifted because we knew, I mean, it's a new category, a new product category, but we knew if someone tried it,
Yeah. It
that
would work.
they would, like, see how well it worked and how amazing it was.
So word of mouth was gonna be everything. So you didn't target the people that you gifted it to. They weren't influencers. You just like how did you choose who to gift to?
Well, they were, like, micro
Oh,
influencers.
they're influencers. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Got it. I mean, at that time, was there not more skepticism? I mean, I know K-beauty was getting bigger, but was there not more skepticism? Because I don't know if you have to get FDA approval for this kind of thing. Maybe not, but I mean, you're not ingesting it. But did there was no kind of skepticism around it? Everyone just kind of accepted, hey, these were the results speak for themselves.
Yeah, I don't remember people I don't remember, like, the education hurdle being super high. Like,
Mm,
I think once people used it, they got it, and then there was a lot of discussion and chatter on social and on the internet about like, oh, these acne patches. And, I think in beauty, it's like easy, it's not
Yeah.
like, I think if you're going to ingest something, like the barrier
Bar
might
much
be
higher.
there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then if it's something that you just put on your face, like, and, people say it works, I think
Yeah.
I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
So
It's true.
I don't think it was that hard to convince people.
And you started off just all bootstrap. You didn't take any venture money in the beginning.
Right. Yeah. We bootstrapped for the first 3 years. I mean, honestly, we probably could have bootstrapped
Kept
all the way
bootstrapping.
through,
Yeah.
but we did raise a round of growth equity funding in year 3. So that was in 2020.
What made you decide to take that money? Just get some money off the table to lean into
Yeah.
growth? Because usually you have to buy more for CPG stuff I've invested in. You have to buy a lot of inventory to sell it. So
Yes.
that costs money.
I know. We had a deadline which helped with that, but partly it was, yeah, we took some chips off the table, and partly we knew this business was growing really fast and we needed some people who could just help like coach us and guide us because we
Mm,
didn't, we didn't know what we were doing.
yeah.
I have to say, like, when we did put money into the business, and it really changed how we operated because now that we had more cushion,
Yeah.
I could hire the VP of marketing that I really wanted, who was actually
Yeah.
over budget.
Yeah.
I could, we could make the big bets in marketing that, we were convinced would work, but like maybe before we're like, oh, we probably shouldn't pay that much. And I
Yeah.
remember like there was a mindset shift that happened where, specifically with Andy, my one of my co-founders, he's a creative person. I can't remember what we were trying to spend money on, but we were thinking about spending money on something. And, like after 3 years, you're like bootstrapping and it's like the immigrant mentality of like just cheaper and, negotiate everything and just do, just like you're just really being scrappy. And I remember, we had some money in the bank after the growth round, and there was a whole conversation around like, okay, we need to change our mindset because now like that mindset of being like super scrappy isn't probably the right mindset for where we were in the growth trajectory. Like now was a time to start spending and like, if you had conviction, just like double down.
Hmm.
But it can be uncomfortable because you're so used to not spending and really like scrimping and being super scrappy and like and then to say like, oh, okay, like, we can afford this or like we're going to pay, I don't know, 30% more for this hire that I really want. Like it can be really uncomfortable, but very empowering actually.
So can you tell our listeners that when you switched mindsets from scarcity mindset to abundance mindset, did that step function growth, is that what led to your, I mean, not what ultimately led to your success, but would you have had the same outcome had you not kind of changed that mindset to a growth mindset?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
And partly it's, to continue the kind of like trajectory and the output that we had. Like I think we did have to go through that switch because I think if we were like kind of more in that scarcity mindset the whole way through, I don't know if we would have like, you know, made some of the swings that we made or like hired some of the people that we hired. And really like the hiring is actually really critical because they're the
Mm,
ones that really drive the team and drive the execution. um, you know, would we have invested because we did a kind of like branding exercise before
mm,
the exit and like would we have spent the I mean, that was expensive. It was a couple
mhm,
$100,000.
mhm,
Would we have done that? Maybe not. Sometimes you do get what you pay for, and
mhm.
sometimes yeah, you have to pay up to get like A plus level output.
Yep. Yep.
And so, yeah, I think it was important for us.
Yeah, I mean, and also it's a timing thing. When people are seeing that you're succeeding, other entrants can come in too. And if you
Yeah.
don't have the A players to get share,
Yes.
they can come in and take it from you. So, I mean, there's always copycats, like, because they see what's going on and like, oh, we can get in on this too.
Yeah.
So I think it's a speed thing too. If you aren't more aggressive and you're always playing defensively,
Yeah.
then you can lose the game. So, and so you started expanding into other products, into a large portfolio. Like, how did you decide what to launch next?
So we focus on the patches for a good, I don't know, 2, 3 years. So we have the original, the Invisible Plus. We have a bigger one called Surface. We have a variety pack. And the idea was just go narrow, but go really deep, just
Hmm.
own this category. And so it's like good and bad because, we're more known for the patches and for anything else. And like the
Hmm.
other topical products, they're not as popular as the patch products.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say they're still popular in their own right, but the scale is just the
Sure.
difference scale is
Yeah,
massive.
it's your core product. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, and the other thing about like focusing on just patches for the first few years is it has great margins. So we're able
Hmm.
to really, build a very efficient business. And then with, the profits from that product category, we're able to reinvest in other areas of the business.
Hmm.
But it came at, I think, the expense of like, most of the business is still in patches.
Yep.
I mean, but patches were really good at that. And
Yeah.
so, I really wanted us to be not just a patch brand, but a acne care brand. And I thought,
Hmm.
we call it the life cycle of the pimple because there's like, your pimple goes through different stages. There's like the early stage
Hmm.
pimple. There's the period where it's ripe, and that's when the patches are great. There's the after phase where it goes
Scarring.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah, you still have like the dark. I get
Yeah.
like pigmentation,
Hmm.
still dry. And so I wanted to create product for the entire life cycle, which we did. And then, but then it's always like, as you add more SKUs, things get more complex.
Yeah.
How do you support like A versus B, you
Yeah.
know, vacation, all that stuff. So it gets a little tricky,
Yeah.
but I think we succeeded in terms of like we delivered on that whole like lifestyle life
Yeah. Yeah.
concept.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to do, which was like have a whole routine and regimen.
Yep.
And the patches would be one part of your routine.
Right.
And I just wanted to own that like acne regimen.
Yeah. And then, so you built this up, you moved to Paris, you're running the company from there. And then Church and Dwight comes looking. I'm assuming that you had other offers along the way. And was it the $630 million price like tag that it was like, okay, this is it, we're ready, or like you could have kept going. I mean, that kind of outcome for any CPG products is pretty good. So I don't know why you would keep going,
No.
um, but I mean, why them? Why then?
I think we were afraid that we were going to be too big to buy.
Hmm.
So, because we were just growing so fast.
Yeah.
And, we're like, if we wait another year, is it going to be too late? Although, I mean, there are times where I was like, oh, maybe we should just wait and just, maximize more value.
Hmm.
But like,
You can always say that. You can always
I know
wait. Yeah.
I know. Like, what did they say? It's like, bird in the hand is worth
Yep.
like two in the bush.
Yeah.
It's just true. And actually, so we sold in 2022 and then 2023, I feel like the M&A market, the
Yeah.
CPG just like shut down.
Yeah. Your timing was impeccable.
Yeah. So like, thank God, that
Yeah.
we exited when we did because even though you have a great business, like if the market conditions aren't great, like it just
It's timing and everything.
yeah. But I mean, it wasn't easy that year because that's when Russia invaded Ukraine,
Hmm.
like in February of 2022. Interest rates, like, the
Yeah.
Fed started jacking up interest
Yep.
rates, made it really tough for private equity buyers.
Yeah.
Currency, we had a lot of FX
Hmm.
activity because the
Because you're
dollar.
selling internationally, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, we were talking to global players, so we were talking to,
Yeah.
buyers in Japan,
Hmm.
but then the dollar versus the yen, like, the yen weakened so much
Yeah. It'd be too
versus the
expensive.
dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, like, suddenly, like, the price became 30% more expensive.
Yeah.
So a lot of macro issues that you can't control. But, yeah, I mean, there were a lot of moments where I was like, "Oh, maybe we should wait," or I feel like there's so much more that we can maximize with this
Hmm.
business.
Hmm.
But in the end, yeah, we ended up doing the deal.
Yeah. So, and we don't have much time left, but I want to find out from you, like, what's life? I have so many friends who've had, exits. Like, what is life after the acquisition like? Because I think a lot of people, they attain this goal, they come into some money, and then a lot of people think, oh, that's it. You're set. But
Yeah.
like, that's not it. You still have
Yeah.
many years left.
I
Like, are you
know.
looking to do something else? Are you itching to do something else?
I am. I wanna work on another brand.
Hmm.
I feel like the world is changing so fast,
Hmm.
and, I was talking to someone about how, like, skills age now really fast, and I feel like if I'm gonna have any value as an advisor or, I don't know, an investor or an operator, like, I need to be in it to
Yep.
keep my skills fresh, and so partly, like, I kinda wanna see if I can do it again. And then partly I just wanna learn. I wanna keep learning and keep
Yeah.
doing because I think that's how you, can keep your skills fresh. So I would like to do that. Probably I'm gonna have more of like a portfolio career. I don't think it's gonna be just
Hmm.
one thing. It's probably gonna be, me doing a bunch of things.
Yeah.
I'm sort of like taking this time because, we just moved to LA last year,
Yeah.
And then last year I was like saying yes to a lot of things. Like it was, new to the area, and then I'm back in the US and
Yeah.
consumer. There are a lot of like events and
Yeah.
retreats and
Well, when we
conferences.
talked, you were talking about movie producing and stuff, right? Or directing or
Yeah.
writing. Yeah.
And then this year I just, I decided to say no to more things. And I'm still like in my reflection period of like, how am I gonna, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna spend my time? And I talked to some other founders and they tell me they're always like recalibrating. They'll like, one week they'll be like, I can't be bothered, like no one bother me. And then the next week, they're like, okay, like I'm gonna say yes to everything. So it doesn't really seem like I mean, like it's a different journey for everybody, and everyone
Yeah.
has their own philosophies when it comes to how you want to spend your time. But I mean, time is your most precious commodity, and so I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah. And I mean, even after the success, you're still trying to figure it out. So that says a lot. Do you have any advice for, any Asian Americans or women, Asian American women who are thinking about founding a company, who are sitting in that job at Samsung or wherever it might be? Like, is there any, I think they may or may not be happy, but what advice would you have for them?
Growing up, I did a lot of comparison. So, like comparing myself to my peers or, my business school friends. And like I think when you fall down that trap, go down that trap, it's not good. So I would say, everyone has their own life and it's going to be different. And also, I think life it's a marathon. And so, I just remember had finished business school and I had colleagues that were, already like very early on, like CEO of like, this business or whatnot. And it's so easy compare yourself to other people who seem like more ahead.
Hmm.
But all I can say is based on my experience, life is very long and it's a marathon, and really you don't know what's going to happen in 2, 3, 5 years. I would say, if you do have entrepreneurial ambitions, I mean, I have a lot of friends who are now, yeah, they're definitely in their 40s and their 50s, and they want off of the rat race.
Hmm.
I mean, I encourage them to kind of start small, like the way that we did.
Hmm.
So, like, yeah, like we were talking about, start it as a side hustle, just like start some conversations, put it on Amazon, and you just never know what happens. I think maybe when you're midlife, it's a little bit harder because you have like a lot of other dependencies and stuff. But it doesn't have to be the whole like I'm going to quit this job and then go all in and I have to raise all this money. You can do it differently.
Hmm.
And I think entrepreneurship is a lot more accessible.
Hmm.
And so, try it on the side.
Awesome. Well, Drew, it sounds like you talked about your brother's career and how it was like this linear path that every step of the way made sense. And yours was not that, but yet you ended up in a same or better place. And you seem very happy now when I talk to you. And so I think you're just an example for many of the folks out there who feel like they have to stay in this rat race or stay in this kind of corporate ladder, stay on the rails. And you don't have to do that. You can get off at any time. I think it matters about your own mentality and your belief in yourself to take that risk. And you don't have to take a huge risk. You don't have to jump off a cliff.
Mhm.
You can start small. You can go on Amazon. You can, you have to bet on yourself. You have to not have the scarcity mindset. That $15,000 to buy, the inventory, write that check, because that's a bet on yourself. And you know, you can find if it doesn't work out, you can sell the remaining inventory, but you can't keep thinking it's the end of your life if you lose that money. I think you've made it to. I feel like so many people hoard that cash for a rainy day. I'm like, it could be a sunny day every single day if you took a risk on yourself. So take that chance. So thank you so much, Shu, for taking the time and sharing your insight and your journey with us. And hopefully I'll see you next time I'm down in LA.
Yes. Thanks for having me, Dave.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Hyphen Nation. Please subscribe to my Substack at www.davelou.com and follow us on Instagram at the Hyphen Nation and LinkedIn at Hyphen Nation.